A esta hora te conectas a una sola radio. Este es el sistema de emisoras Onda Digital en Colombia. Radio virtual, hecha por jóvenes, pensada por universitarios. Sistema de estaciones Onda Digital, un concepto diferente.
Hi, hello. My name is Enrique Cuellar, and this is our second episode talking about languages. And I am here today with...
Hi, my name is Zabib Naguse, International English Teaching Assistant at UCC.
Hi, my name is Juliana Caraballo, international student from Puerto Rico, currently here at Universidad Cooperativa de Colombia, sede Medellín.
Okay, and today we're going to start talking about mistakes. Yeah, talking about language, but why we're going to talk about mistakes? Yeah?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, as someone who moved here to Colombia about 8 months ago and I didn't know a lot of Spanish, mistakes is a very important part of the language learning process. I think sometimes we don't think about it that much, but mistakes is the number way we learn languages, and because of that, we wanted to focus on mistakes today.
We're also focusing on mistakes in language because that is one of the positive aspects about migration. You get to learn a brand new language and make a ton of mistakes talking. So, who wants to start saying and telling more about their mistakes? So, who wants to start? Go on,
something
don't be shy.
Something that we have to say here is that, of course, mistakes are a valuable learning opportunity. Yes, to learn anything that we want. Always, when we make mistakes, we are like having a very big opportunity to learn something in a better way. Yeah, and today maybe we're gonna take advantage of all those mistakes that we have done in the past. Yeah, like, I don't know, tell me you.
I mean, for example, last week I was in a restaurant where they were serving típicas from Colombia, and I looked the waiter in the eye and I was like, can I have roblado? And everyone was like, what is she talking about? What is roblado? But I meant to say róbalo. And it became like a funny joke between me and my friends for the rest of the trip. But that's just an example of how, because of that mistake, I will always have that word memorized in my head. And it's just part of the learning process. So you can't take yourself too seriously in those situations. You just have to kind of joke about it and move on and have a good attitude about it.
Now you remember how do you pronounce that word?
Róbalo.
Róbalo.
Yeah, and pronunciation is also difficult in different languages. We were just talking about rolling R's in Spanish.
Carro, carretera.
It's so easy for you guys, but for us, it's not.
It's not so easy?
No, I couldn't roll my R's until I had to try to do it for 1.5 years until I could finally do it. Like, I could not do it until I practiced.
Try to say Enrique.
Don't make me say that. Okay.
Try.
Enrique, like, it's not coming. No fluye.
No fluye.
But now you are like conscious about that pronunciation, and that is something good. Yeah, it's valuable that you maybe learn that word or that kind of pronunciation, but by your mistake. Yes, look this. I had a friend that she knew a word by her mistake. Once, one of her friends was like sniffing, and she said, greetings. Yeah. And everybody was laughing about her because, of course, it wasn't the way to say that. Yeah.
Because saludos is greeting.
Yes. And look that. Everybody said to her, it's not that way. Yeah, you have to say, bless you. And actually, she replied that answer, yes, and now she said, I know, or I remember every time that I'm gonna say that thing, yeah, I remember that moment, that like incident.
But that is also because there's so many words in Spanish that don't have a direct translation in English. For example, we say salud when someone is sneezing, and we also say buen provecho when someone is eating. In English, there is not a word for buen provecho. Usually you could just say like enjoy, and people don't even say enjoy, let's be real. They're just like, okay, go eat.
Yes.
Take yourself.
But what do you think about this? Sometimes I think that it's better to learn something just the way it is and not try to ask why that it means that thing.
Yeah, like always trying to find a direct translation for every single word.
Yeah,
Like
that
that's an issue.
happened. That happened here in Colombia. Sometimes we try to translate, and when we try to translate, we mess up.
In Puerto Rico, there's actually a funny thing that is usually people laugh at us because when we try to translate something to English, we add Asian at the end of it, like information, right? So I don't know if it's food, then comidation. I don't know. Some people just like to add that in for fun, and we laugh at it. We know that it's wrong, but we try to go with with the flow and try to let's just go with it, because the second language in Puerto Rico, it is English. So basically, if a tourist or someone American or someone who speaks native English can survive in Puerto Rico in the metropolitan area. Now, if you go more to the center, probably not much. So that's an alert, a warning, just in case you want to go to Puerto Rico. But definitely mistakes helps us improve, but also have become part of our culture too, in our lexic, I think it's called in English, like the way we talk.
Lexicon?
Yep.
Yeah, our lexicon, exactly, sorry. Especially because in Spanish, we already have words that are in English, but we know what that means. For example, the teacher was saying ticket. Like we say ticket, we say parking, we say manager, we say dealer, and they have a lot of different meanings. For example, dealer here in Colombia is someone who works with drugs, especially. But in Puerto Rico, it is the car dealer, actually, where you buy your car. So when we say, voy al dealer, es como que I'm going to buy a car, So what other words have you learned or tried, or do you know that in English? Or, well, I think this word is more towards the professor, because what are those other words that are in English, but we have it in Spanish, and we know that is English, but we know what we're talking about.
But the funny thing about that is that the people that pronounce those words, they don't think that those are words in English, but actually there are. Yeah? Like which ones? Of course, you said ticket, manager, like parking, security, like golf, like the sport, yes. Selfie, everybody talk about selfie right now. And email, yeah, this is I think is a very useful word right now.
Yeah.
Dealer, you said, yeah. Baby, everybody say baby. I think so.
Yeah.
Or
That is
sorry. Sorry, it's something that everybody uses. But sometimes we are not aware that we are pronouncing words in English.
In English.
Yeah, because maybe we think that those words are part of our language, but not. Sometimes language are like mixed with another language, but we are not aware about
An
that.
example of that is actually Spanglish.
Yeah.
Because Spanglish is a way to show that you can dominate both languages. For example, in Puerto Rico, in the metropolitan area, a lot of young people around our age, they actually mix a lot the English and the Spanish. Suddenly you're talking in Spanish and then you say like esto pasó anyway, and you try to mix that, but that is not actually bad, because that means that you have since you can dominate both languages, English and Spanish, you can mix them and you're making sense with what you're saying. For example, sometimes here behind the microphone and before we were recording, suddenly when we speak to Sabib, we're like, mira, pero es que pasó esto, so suddenly this happened, and then like we mix both things, but she gets it completely. But that is also a way to prove her that we can understand her in both languages. So that is actually a great thing. Imagine people that know more than 2 languages. Imagine knowing
I cannot imagine.
how they can mix 3 or 4 languages at the same time.
Oh.
That would be crazy.
I wish I could do that.
I wish too.
But what you were saying before was very interesting about how we use language to communicate with each other, because I know some people here who find it easier, obviously, to make friends or maybe to be in romantic relationships with people who also speak English. And it's because if you can express yourself both ways, it's so much easier to connect with people, to understand with people. And it's just another example of why language is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah. And I think we also wanted to talk about neighborhoods in the United States in different ways. Different neighborhoods in the United States kind of are dominated by different languages. For example,
I would love to have to give you a question about that, because I imagine, I don't know, maybe here we can notice something like that in some neighbors there are like different kind of words, or different kind of even accents. It depends on the area in which
The
you
slangs.
live. Slangs. That happens there. That happens in the United States.
Of course that does.
Yeah, it does. I meet people from California sometimes. I was raised in Kentucky, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, oh, you don't know what this means? I'm like, no, I've never heard that in my life. So that miscommunication can still happen even in the United States. It's funny. Just like Colombia.
Yes, of course. In here, it happens a lot too, because if we go to different areas, here in Colombia, we find that there are many like words that we don't use here in Medellin or in La Costa. They don't use words that we use here. Sometimes talking about neighborhoods is not like so common, or we can notice in a very good way if we go outside of the department maybe.
But also I think that those neighborhoods have like some type of slangs, or they talk in different ways, but they still understand each other, because it's not always easy to learn a second language. There's some people that I know, Latinos who live in United States. I was about to pull out the English right there. That live in the United States, and they don't even speak an ounce of English, and they have survived more than 10 years in the United States just talking in Spanish. So that is also because even though it's a second language, you also need like that fuerza de voluntad. You need to pull yourself to actually learn it, right?
And make mistakes.
And make the mistakes. But that also happens because when you find, let's just make this scenario. I'm moving to the United States and I don't know an ounce of English. So I would try to live in an area where everyone's talking Spanish. The stores nearby where I need the essentials that I have to get for my home, they speak Spanish. So of course you're going to survive if everyone around you like speaks in Spanish. And even some people that they speak both languages, they can make you the favors. Like, I need to fill out this paper, so can you help me because I don't know any English, but you do. So that is also a way how you can survive in the United States if you don't dominate the English.
Yeah, but you said you have to pull yourself to know a little bit more, to like get the knowledge, get some words that maybe you don't understand. Yeah, I think that today with this podcast we are like showing a very good opportunity to learn. Yes, it's make mistakes is a very good way to learn. Yes, and we have to be like aware and conscious about that, because of course the best way to learn something is by making mistakes. When you were like learning how to ride a bike, did you fail?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course que me pelé la rodilla a few times actually.
Yes.
And it comes to the question of why is learning a language so difficult sometimes? And, of course, age is a factor, or how old you were when you started to learn it, because, of course, kids can learn it easier. But I was also thinking about socioeconomic class and the access to resources you have. For example, if you have a lot of money and you can go to a bilingual school, if you can go to an international school, it's much easier, obviously, to pick up a second language. But if you don't have those resources, if you are in a lower socioeconomic class, then it becomes harder a lot of times.
Also, another way that you can probably learn a new language is your circle. Like your friends, your family. Sometimes we met people that can dominate more than one language, and the words they say, they stick to us. And we try to, okay, but what does this mean? And we start to get more intrigued by it, and then you can like wake up that curiosity to learn a new language. So that also has to do with it.
But you said a very clue word. Yeah, curiosity. Is curiosity what make us like want to learn more, or get something more? We have to go and, I don't know, make research maybe about what we want.
Definitely. So I think this episode was actually kind of fun too, to learn more about languages, learn how actually language has to do with migration and a positive impact that has on migration overall. So we all hope that you enjoyed this episode. My name is Juliana Caraballo. Remember to follow Onda Digital on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, since that is the radio station of this university. I was here with
Zabib Neguse.
And Enrique Cuellar, teacher from the university too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
A esta hora te conectas a una sola radio. Este es el sistema de emisoras Onda Digital en Colombia. Radio virtual, hecha por jóvenes, pensada por universitarios. Sistema de estaciones Onda Digital. Un concepto diferente.